Okay. Welcome everyone to the Single No More online summit. We are here to give you the tools to feel confident that you can not only meet, but keep your Mr. Right this year. My guest today is Gerald Rogers. He is a transformational leader, speaker, and coach that has trained thousands of individuals to discover their purpose, step into their power, and learn how to make their purpose-driven businesses profitable and to live big, which I absolutely love. I'm all about living life on high volume. Now, while he doesn't coin himself as a relationship expert, he wrote one of the most reposted posts, which was a letter to himself the day after his divorce. And we're going to get into it because it's super interesting. And he's now the author of The Marriage Advice I Wish I Would Have Had, What Divorce Taught Me About Love and Life. Hello, Mr. Gerald. So nice to have you.
Ta-da! It is such an honor to be here. And for anyone that's watching this, I want to acknowledge you, dedicating the time to be part of a summit like this, to really look at how you can improve yourself. It says a lot about you. And so I just want to really thank you for spending this time with you. And I promise it's going to be really entertaining and really worth engaging in. So
yeah. Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you. You're my first to outwardly thank me. So I will take that. And I agree. This is definitely a labor of love. But at the same time, I think like you, when we reach such epiphanies in our life and we have such moving and transformational experiences, we just want to share it. It's too good not to share, because I think we feel amazing from it. And we go, everyone needs to know this stuff, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Like I look back at all of the pain that I went through, and it's like, why didn't someone tell me? Like, why didn't someone give me this advice or this perspective? And maybe the honest truth is that maybe I wasn't ready to learn until I actually went through the agonizing pain of divorce. I don't know if I was really aware of how much healing and how much learning I needed to do. Because I think, I don't know if other people on this call feel that way, but I thought that I was doing pretty good in my marriage. I thought that things were pretty good until all of a sudden, when the woman that you love says she doesn't want to be with you anymore, it's just like, whoa, what happened, right? And it forces us to learn, and forces us to dig deep, and forces us to really look at the things we don't want to look at. So it's everything comes at perfect timing. But yeah, I wish that someone would have hit me over the head earlier and just made me learn these things.
But I think that's a difference, because someone. So I'm just learning now that it was her call to ask for the divorce.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, like it's such a complicated thing, and identifying whose role was what. Like, she was the first one that just had got to this point where she just wasn't interested in being with me anymore. Like, her heart was no longer with me. And to be completely transparent, she had found someone else that captivated her more than I did. And I struggled, and I fought, and I for 6 months tried everything I could to save the marriage. And then I realized it wasn't working, like it wasn't happening. And so I was the one that made the decision to move on. But so at some level, I mean, we all co-create relationships, period. It's never one person's fault. We're all co-creating. But it was definitely something I had always wanted to be married for the rest of my life. That's why I got married, and that's what I always imagined. And it had to really reach this climax of pain for me to realize that maybe that wasn't what was best for either of us.
But I still think it's interesting that you came out of it, and you then said, okay, well, now I need to do a lot of healing, or it almost forced you to go, oh, what did I do? Whereas I don't feel like everyone would say that. They might still go, well, I guess that's just wasn't meant to be, and they don't see the lessons from it. Do you think there's just people that want to see those lessons, or others that don't?
Well, I think that most of us have been trained since the time we were young to be victims, right? To believe that we look at other people as the reason for our pains. She made me mad, or I can't have it because of this. And in that victim mentality, when we believe the other person is the source of our pain, it's impossible for us to heal. Like, we cannot heal as long as we're in this victimhood, believing that they're responsible for the problems in our life. And fortunately, I had that awareness going into it. So I realized, wow, I'm going through this. I have a woman that doesn't love me anymore, that doesn't want to be with me. That's my responsibility, right? That's my, and of course I could like blame her. I could make her wrong. And there were times that I did, because all of us sometimes find validation in blame. But at the end of the day, I knew that if I was going to move on, if I was going to actually create a new relationship that was healthy, and if I was going to create a brand new relationship with this woman that's my kid's mom, that was going to be healthy, I had to get out of any sort of victimhood energy and step into accountability in my own life. And so I had to ask the question, how did I get here? How did I create this? What role did I play in creating this relationship? And that one distinction is what turns us from a space of powerlessness to a space of power. And that one decision to take radical accountability for the results of our life. That's what liberates us in being able to heal and to move forward. As long as we're in this energy of like, it's their fault, then we're doomed to stay stuck and doomed to recycle and recreate more of those same patterns in future relationships.
I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of saying how weirdly, by us taking accountability, and like you said, what role did I play in it? I think that's kind of what this whole summit is about. It's really about what can we do, rather than feeling like we're all powerless in our dating life. We're powerless in any respect. How are we showing up? Who are we bringing to the table? How are we almost having a part in maybe if we're not having the success that we want in love?
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing.
And it's so hard sometimes to take that level of accountability, because when we really look in the mirror, and I force myself to look at me through her eyes. And I saw all of the times that I failed to show up. I saw the times where I made commitments and didn't follow through the best I could. I saw the times where I was so in my head that I didn't know how to be present with her. I saw all the ways that she was begging for me to show up as a man, and I didn't have the capacity or knowledge. I saw in her, I saw through her eyes, and I looked at me, I was like, wow, I wouldn't want to be married to this guy either. Like, this guy, through her perspective, was inconsistent, and this guy was untrustworthy, and this guy was unpresent, and this guy was, like, there were so many things. I'm like, wow, I really had compassion for her. Whereas if I went in my victimhood, it's like I thought, I'm the good man, I'm the husband, I'm the one that is always there for my kids and provides and creates this beautiful home and washes the dishes and is always there saying I love you to her. Like, I thought, like, I would have rated myself at a level 8 or 9 in terms of a husband. But when I really looked at her through her eyes, I mean, like, holy, like, I don't know if I can swear in this, but like, I want to swear. It's like, I looked at it as like, wow, I really probably in her eyes was maybe like operating on level 3 or 4. And so it made sense all of a sudden how I created that. But most of it come like, we all are doing the best we can with what we know. And I got to have compassion. Like, taking accountability doesn't mean blaming yourself. It doesn't making yourself the bad person, because that just becomes a double-edged sword. You stay in victimhood, but you make yourself. And that is even worse, because then you have the compounding shame and guilt that's built upon it. And so it's really about having compassion. It says, I know that I did the best I could with where I was at. I know that I worked so hard to be the man that she wanted, and I didn't have the tools at the time. And I didn't have the skills, and I didn't know what to do. And I was so flawed in so many ways, but I did the best I knew how. And from that space, like, it catapulted me to a level of awareness and growth and expansion unlike I could have ever possibly imagined. And I look back right now at the divorce, which was without question the most painful experience of my entire life. Like, gut-wrenching, right? Like this feeling, like when we go through divorce, like it's like it shreds our identity and feels like a death, because we're losing that person that we committed our life to, and committing that not only the past that we've had together, all the good moments, because we all have good moments, we all have beautiful moments, but not only do we lose that, no, but we also lose the identity of being a father and being a husband, and then all of a sudden lose the identity of the entire future that I built so much in my brain of living together with this woman and holding hands as this old couple, and like having our kids come over at Christmas, and all of that dies when we divorce, and it's so gut wrenching. And at the same time, I look back and I see it as the greatest gift I've ever had in my life, because it purified me and it woke me up.
I was just going to say, it sounds like it woke you up.
It
Yeah.
woke me up, so I knew how to show up, and it made me so I was actually committed. How can I make sure that when I show up and create that relationship in the future, how can I make sure that I'm an epic lover, and I know how to give this goddess that I'm bringing into my life exactly what she deserves, so I don't have to recreate those same things. And I think we all experience this, don't we? Like when we've done the healing, we look back at the experiences that were traumatic, and we experience gratitude. That's the moment where you know the healing's taking place, where you can look at the painful experience and say, thank you so much, God, for giving me that gift.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. Because what I loved about what you wrote to yourself, again, it was just so forgiving, and it was so like, it was almost like an apology. I read it and I thought she might even take you back after. You know, like with someone like that, I'd go, well, now he gets it. So it almost, part of me was wondering if that even happened.
Well, no, I mean, the reality is, I think for her and her perspective is like, it's like, I spent 16 years with you, you unconscious bastard, and now you figure it out. Like, what the hell? But
Yeah.
it was also really interesting, because when that post went viral, all of a sudden, it was literally the day after our divorce was finalized, and it went viral, and within 2 weeks I was on the Today Show, and millions of people across it, like, it took off in this really, really unexpected way, where millions of people all of a sudden had seen these words that I had written. And for her, I think it just made it even more painful, which I felt bad about, because
Mm.
she's very private, and I'm very, I'm very outgoing, like I love people, I love sharing my message. And so it was just another reflection of why, it made sense that our relationship didn't work out. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But it's
But
amazing. Yeah. The
but
way.
what I can say is, though, even though, like, I look at this as relationship contracts, right?
Mm.
I fully acknowledge the 16 years that I spent with that beautiful goddess that is the mother of my kids. I fully acknowledge that she was the partner I needed in my life to help me grow through the stages of my evolution. And without any question, I know that there came a point in our contract that in order for me to continue to move on and live my life mission and purpose, like, subconsciously, I feel like she knew she had to let me go. Right. That's the frame that I've created in my mind, where it's just like,
You're giving
our
me
past,
goosebumps
like,
right now. Like
there's
I have
no way
goosebumps.
I could live the life I do right now, to serve the people the way I do now, to have the relationships I do now, if I was still contained within that old contract.
Mm.
And I like to believe at some deep spiritual level that she knew that. And she knew that it was time for our contract to be done, so she could let me go, so I could go serve the world in the way that I meant. At least that's the story I created in my mind.
Oh, well, we definitely know that we do that. I was getting goosebumps while you were saying that all, because it's that, just how grateful you are again for such a painful experience, but like anything to come out the other side is just so like it's so powerful. And I completely resonate with what you're saying about, when you meet these people, it helps us grow. It's just definitely something I've had to learn in my relationships and my current relationship. Yeah, we broke up a couple of times during we are engaged now, but we broke up a couple of times, but we came back together, but only through that hard work and I had to make the shift like you did of, I make myself feel how I feel, and I need to be responsible. And
Yeah.
same thing, like I'm almost so grateful and thankful for the mental place that I'm at now. And weirdly, it only came from a relationship. And I think that's what's also so interesting is that I feel like a lot of us, we can stay in our little happy bubble if we're single, and yeah, it gets hard because it's confronting, but the potential for growth, even from just our own perspective, is so huge. So
Yeah.
to have your story be an example where, yeah, you were married for 16 years, but weirdly, you actually say that the divorce was the best thing that ever happened to you. So it's almost like
Yeah.
saying, don't be afraid to get in there and get in the game. There's a lot that's going to happen, and there's a lot to gain and a lot to learn. And it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
and I think that's what love is. Love is the courage to care. The love is courage to take your heart and put it out there, and to experience all of the magic and sometimes the pain, like, and I wish that I could say that magically after that divorce, like every relationship since then has been perfect, but it hasn't. Each relationship has gifts. And I was actually single for about 2.5, 3 years, and then I got remarried, and that relationship was really another great learning lesson. Like, it was really, really challenging, but also really exactly what I needed at the time. And we were married for 2 years, and about a year and a half ago, I graduated from that relationship. And it's interesting because that was after I had written this book on marriage advice. So
Yeah.
there was this thought in my mind. It's like like why, like, I have the answers, why can't I, like, why doesn't this work for me? And it's so much easier to give perspective. I have saved so many marriages by coaching and supporting them, but in that situation, it's like we can't always know what to do in our own life. But what I look at, in that journey is, even though I had two horses, I don't feel like I've had any failed relationships. The failure only happens if you don't learn anything from it.
Mm.
And I feel like because of each of those different relationships and the women that I got to date, in between, like, there was like this really beautiful evolution, and each person that came into my life was the perfect gift. And right now I can say for last year, I've had the most extraordinary, exceptional, mind-blowing relationship I've ever, I couldn't even imagine having a relationship that's good. Like, I couldn't, like, it wasn't even in my realm of possibility that the
Wow.
relationship I have right now was even a potential, right? Like, it's like 100 times better than any of the other relationships. But I wouldn't have found who I'm with right now if it wasn't for the women that I was with before. And I certainly wouldn't have been prepared to receive and to create this experience, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Yeah. I love that. That's amazing. You said in the beginning again that you wish you had that advice, but I actually agree with you. I think you probably would have thought I don't need it because, like, again, you thought you were an 8, 9.
yeah. And that's the challenge, is when things are comfortable, when things are okay, we don't look for that. We need those painful moments when things are breaking down for us to be teachable,
Mm.
because there were lots of relationship books I could have studied. There were lots of coaches I could have hired, but I didn't know that I needed it
Yeah.
until I was forced to go through the dark night of the soul.
Do you think there's anything your first wife could have done to, bring that awareness any earlier, like before the divorce?
Well, of course, like if we would have had the tools that I have now, it would have been easy, right?
Mm.
Like, I was 100% committed to that woman,
Mm.
and there was just simple things that we could have done to save that marriage, right? Just
Mm.
simply learning how to understand each other's needs, learning to have, like, really deep, authentic conversations, learning how to open up and be vulnerable, um, learning how to actually experience sex and intimacy in the way that it's meant to be experienced. Like, she was the first woman that I had ever had sex with, and 16 years later, the only woman I had ever experienced, and our sex sucked. It was awful. Like, we had sex 4 times in the last year of our relation because I was clueless. We didn't know any better,
Yeah.
right? But if we would have had the courage to actually figure it out and master it, who knows? We could have had, like, an epic, loving, beautiful relationship. But we didn't know, right? We didn't know how to be vulnerable. We didn't know how to work through our healing process. We didn't know how to identify our triggers. We didn't know how to communicate authentically. We had built for 16 years, like, this frame of a relationship based on, like, these ideas that, you know were so limited because we're kids when we got married, we're like 22, 23. I'd only kissed like 3 women before her. I was clueless. I was like this little boy, and she was like this little girl, and it was so beautiful. We got to experience that together. But yeah, of course, looking back, if we would have had some tools and the courage to have, one of the biggest mistakes I ever made though was having a counselor. I don't. This probably isn't the place to rant, but a lot of traditional counselors
Mm-hmm.
it's like built on this completely wrong model where they're just focusing. It felt like this moderated fight. We go in, it's like, so what are you feeling? What do you feel about this? How about you? Right? And it was like this playground where we would just like bring out all of our junk and throw it at each other. And there was like this referee encouraging us to do that. It was like so messed up, right? The difference between counseling and true coaching, counseling is like, let's talk about the problems. And the more you focus on the problems, the more you experience what? Like our relationship got exponentially worse the moment we started doing marriage counseling, traditional marriage therapy. But coaching, on the other hand, is like, hey, let's focus on accountability, understanding you're responsible. You have 100% responsibility for this relationship. How are you showing up in terms of what you're creating? Like that would have changed everything, because it would have like forced us to really get out of like this idea that they need to change in order for us to be happy. Like that's the brokenness that a lot of people get stuck in, and why relationships fail is they're in the mentality that the other person's change is responsible for them, is required for them to have a healthy relationship. My advice, if someone's there, is like, forget it. Like, get out of the relationship, because if your happiness in the relationship is based on them being someone different than they are, it's never going to work. You will always be disappointed. But if you can find a way to access within you a space of love within you, so you're not codependent, needing them to show up in a certain way in order for you to be okay, then your relationship has a chance. And if both of you are committed to do that, it's easy for the relationship to thrive.
Yeah, I love that. I agree with the counseling versus coaching. And I agree, it's crazy how you would think you'd go into counseling and work together, but at the same time, I almost feel like if you guys went and worked on your own stuff and then brought that together,
100%.
so much just more like amazing,
100%.
offering this amazing person. Those feelings that you're talking about, vulnerability, authenticity, all those tools that you said you have or wish you would have had, do you feel like those are both accessible to both men and women?
Oh, of course, 100%. 100%. And I think it's required. And I think depending on, I mean, different people have different personalities. For some people it's easier than others, like I know a lot of guys that really have a hard time expressing their feelings. A lot of guys that really have a hard time, and there's women that do too, but that idea of being vulnerable and acknowledging the things in your life that you don't want them to see, that's the space of courage. And for me, that's where intimacy happens. Like what's beautiful, what I experience right now in my relationship is this place of radical transparency. There is nothing from my past, not a single thing from my past or my present, that I feel any fear of sharing with her. Right? Like everything, like from the beginning of the relationship was set up is like, hey, this is who I am. If you want this, great. If not, that's totally okay too. But I'm not willing to hide who I am in order to earn your love. And because of that, it's created this like really, really radical space of intimacy, where it's just like everything is safe. Everything is safe for us to discuss, from our wildest fantasies to our deepest mistakes. And this is going to be complete, like, I'm just going to go here because like this is what radical transparency looks like, right? So when we first started dating, we were kind of in the space, and I was like, hey, just so you know, I'm still working through healing from my last divorce. I'm not ready to commit in a relationship. I'm not looking for marriage right now. If you want to date, if you want to create amazing experiences, great. But I just wanted to let you know, this is where I'm at. And so we began with that way. And we're dating each other. We were dating each other and dating other people. And along that way, we got closer and closer and just started sharing more and more. And we just, like, like we just became integral in each other's lives, where it's just like we just shared everything, all the details, and had told her all the baggage, all the garbage, all the mistakes I had ever made in the past. And it was like, hey, here he is, Merry Christmas. And what was interesting is the more I shared, the deeper our relationship got, the more trust there was within that relationship for us to be vulnerable and authentic. And she got to share with that. And there's something really beautiful, because we think that those things that we'll get rejected for, those are the things that actually build deeper trust. And then there was this moment where, I went out with another woman, and I ended up having sex with her that night. And the next morning I was talking to Allison, the woman I'm dating right now. And like, she was asking, so, how was your experience last night? And I told her that I had sex, like, because it was the last thing in the world that I wanted to tell her.
Right.
But I didn't want to go to the space of feeling like I had to hide anything, because I knew the moment I did that, our intimacy would, and intimacy, I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about our willingness to be seen fully for who we are. True depth of intimacy for me happens when I'm an open book, and I can stand fully naked in front of another person and feel unashamed. That's, to me, what intimacy is. And it was brutal, to be able to say, yeah, I ended up, having sex with this other woman. And for her, like, knowing that hurt her, knowing that created pain, that all of a sudden created like this shift within me. It's just like, wow, I recognize that there's a responsibility that I've taken on with this woman. And I'm not willing to hide. I'm not willing to be disconnected. I'm not willing to wear this mask. I'm not willing to go back to that space of disconnection and lacking transparency. So I'm committed to radical transparency, always in moving forward. And I realize that that's going to affect the choices I make. And from that point forward, like, I made the decision, not because she was forcing me to, not because she was requiring me, not because she was like, she was so beautiful the way she handled it. It's like, hey, Gerald, I want you to know you didn't do anything wrong. Like, this is where our relationship's been, and I understand. And it really hurt. And I'm sorry that you felt like you needed to do that, but I also understand. She held such a deep space of compassion where it didn't like shame me for being vulnerable.
Right.
And that experience, in whatever weird way, deepened our sense of trust with each other. And I realized if I were to make that decision again, like, it would be so painful to her that I'm not willing to make that decision. Does it make sense?
And it's weird because based on if she hadn't responded in any other way except compassion, it would have totally changed the dynamic. It's that simple.
Yeah, her ability to hold space for me to be vulnerable without reacting was what deepened the intimacy for us.
Yeah.
And what allowed us to evolve. And it's been really beautiful to play in this space because in my first marriage, I wore masks all the time. I constantly felt like I needed to be the good boy. I pretended like I had it all figured out. I was a good boy that was always going to church and doing all the right things. And I was the good boy that could never admit that I haven't had any problems, which no wonder why she couldn't trust me.
Right.
Because when we're wearing masks, it prevents the other person from really feeling like that trust. Yeah, that was this idea of radical transparency. Honestly, everyone gets to define what that looks like. But for me, the key is this, like this, for the people that are watching this right now, if you want to have like an extraordinary, epic, incredible relationship, here's where it begins. Love yourself so fully, so radically, so unconditionally that if you get love from another person, it's cool, but it doesn't matter at all. Like, the space of the relationship I have right now comes because I adore this woman. I love her. I worship her. And I don't need her at all. If she decided she didn't want to be with me, I would be so okay. I would be so happy. Why? Because I love my life. I love who I am. And from that, I'm not afraid of being transparent, because if she doesn't accept me, that's okay. I'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that it actually creates a deeper sense of love. And so for anyone that's watching this, just make that commitment to fall in love with you, because from that space, you're not creating a relationship from codependency.
Mm-hmm.
Codependency happens where I need your love in order for me to feel okay. Like, feel okay first. And then from that space, create an epic relationship is easy because you attract other people that are also whole and complete.
I basically started this summit to say, what is the secret to finding love? And you've just pretty much just totally embodied it and just said how it's about loving yourself. And I even say that's a better term than self-love. It's loving yourself, like you said, so completely that the rest is gravy, right? The rest is icing on the cake, because then it's like you've just got all this power about. It's just so much more fulfilling than, like you said, seeking it from an outside source. So,
and the other thing that happens for people that haven't found that relationship yet, when you love yourself, you pump out to the world the most addictive pheromone on the planet, which is confidence.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
Right.
so, confidence is the sexiest thing on the planet. And that confidence comes from radical self-love. Like that place of like, hey, I know I'm sexy. I know I'm amazing. I know I'm talented. I know I'm incredible. I love this. And if you're smart, you should love this too, right? And that sounds so arrogant and egotistical, but it's just the opposite, right? That's the space of wholeness. That's the space we all should be in. And that's the space that we're magnetized towards. When we see someone walk around with that level of unapologetic love, that unapologetic expression of who they are, we're like, damn, that. Right?
Yeah, I was like, damn, like I wanted to say the same thing, but it's true. And like, and I thought as well, it's not an arrogance. It's just I don't give a shit what you think, but I'm okay with that, right? Like, I'm not going on saying I'm better than you. You can be this too. But yeah, like my coach told me once, she goes, be like obsessed with yourself. Like, just, you are the shit. Like, you are the bomb. And I was like, you're right. I love who I am. I love everything I've done. I love, just waking up every day, right? Like, I love the way you phrased that. That was outstanding. But yeah, it's not arrogance at all. I agree with you.
Yeah, you just own that you're a fucking badass. That's just it, just own it. Just be it.
An attractive badass.
Yeah, you are. Like, and it's so radiant, for both men and women to be in that space of just certainty. There's a flow that happens, and just really, it's beautiful. And relationships aren't meant to be like, the easiest thing. Like, they're not a Nicholas Sparks novel. They're not. Like the people that we're in relationship with, they're not always going to know the right things to say. They're going to have triggers. They're going to have wounds. We all do. But what's beautiful when you have those soul partnerships, those soul relationships, is you have someone that's willing to do the work with you. And it's so rich and so inviting. And what's beautiful about it is when you come to the space of wholeness and completeness, even before that person comes, like, your life isn't diminished at all. You still feel love, so you still feel happiness. And I really, really honor all of the women and men too, but the women out there that are going through that journey, because I know what it's like to like really crave having your person, to have that person that can hold you as you go to sleep at night, to have that person that you can talk to, that can like carry the weight with you, that can give you that space. And especially for, the divine feminine, to have a conscious man that can be there to hold you in all of your emotion and all of your stress and all of your fear and all of your joy and all your flirtiness, all your sexiness, and have the full wide dimension of who you are as a woman. I get that that's so important. and I get that it's hard to find too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. I feel like
And
this
and
man is
part of
probably
it,
the hardest thing to find.
like, I just, for you women out there, you incredible divine goddesses, like, I am sorry that us men are like behind the curve, and that so many of us men are still working on waking up, and that there's, so many men that are deeply in unconsciousness and they don't know how to show up, and there's men that take advantage and want, things from you that aren't really aligned with your soul, and they treat you as objects, and I'm so sorry that those men exist. I really am.
Mm,
Because you deserve to be seen, you deserve to be honored, you just deserve to be cherished, you deserve to be held in that divine conscious masculine.
mhm.
And I hope that more men wake up. I
Yeah.
hope more men know how to show up for you, because you deserve that.
And of course, we know we can't change anyone but ourselves, so we can't anticipate that all men are just gonna change tomorrow. So, what do you advise to women who are still single and looking for that relationship, that epic relationship? Just keep being your
Yeah,
amazing
I mean,
self and
there's this challenge that we have when we're hungry and we're wanting that relationship, because then we begin seeking, and women oftentimes drift into the unconscious masculine themselves, and they begin pursuing, thinking that it's their job to go out there and pursue that relationship.
mm,
And the challenge with that is then you lose the the natural attractive allure of what the feminine's all about. The feminine, and your job is, if I would give you one job that would help you, it's just like, be joyful. Like, that's it. Like, that's the job of the divine feminine, is just be that radiant, alluring, attractive, sexy flower that attracts,
mm,
the men towards you. And when you are really aligned with yourself, when you're really aligned with your truth, when you really love you, then you're not going to settle for one of those unconscious men that is
mm,
going to treat you anyway other than with deepest respect and devotion. You're
mm,
not going to even entertain the thought of going with a man that just wants you for your body. You're not going to even consider the possibility of being with someone that treats you disrespectfully
mm,
or abuses you. Like, that won't even be an option. And there's so many great men out there,
mm,
but it requires you, number one, just to focus on loving yourself
mhm,
passionately and deeply,
mm,
and being in the space where you're okay without the relationship. And then from that space, get in environments where those men happen to be. It's not a bar, you know. I promise you, you'll never find a conscious, like, divine masculine hanging out at a bar, because that's not where they hang out. Go to places where they are, and be willing to, just be present and trust. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is just trust. And for the divine feminine, when you can be really aligned with your intuition, you'll know where you need to be. And you'll be like, oh, wow, I really feel inspired to, set up a profile on bumble.com. Okay, I don't know why. That's interesting. I'll do that. Right. Or, like, and like, once again, like, if you're pursuing online dating as the vehicle, and you're hunting for your man, you're going to attract so many assholes into your life. Like, unbelievable. But I've also known people that have attracted extraordinary, incredible people from online dating. So don't judge it, but, like, really tune into inspired action, like holding the intention of what you deserve, and creating this opportunity for you to be in environments where those men actually exist, and just trusting your intuition, and loving the journey along the way.
mm,
Because if there's a part of you that believes that you'll be happy when you have a relationship, you're not ready for a relationship. I'm
mm,
going to emphasize that again. If there's a part of you that still believes that you'll be happy when you have a relationship, you're not ready for a relationship. You are on the path to create a codependent, dysfunctional, broken down shit show of a relationship. Right? But if you can be in the space of, like, absolutely loving your life, being open to a relationship, but not being in the neediness of one,
mhm.
that's where the magic happens. And that's where you can experience joy along the way. So that's my advice.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. I love it because when you were talking, I was going to be remiss not to ask, where are those divine conscious men? You're like, they're not at a bar, and I'm thinking, where are they? I know everyone's on.
Yeah, I mean, and for me, like, it's interesting because my whole world revolves around personal development, right? I host these transformational seminars, and so I see these men come in all the time, right? Because these are the men that are seeking growth, seeking consciousness, seeking awareness.
Mm,
And like, I see these men, like when I go to yoga in the morning, like the art class is filled with these really deeply aware and present men. And
mhm,
once again, like, each person's going to have their own flavor of type of men that you want, but there's really powerful masculine conscious men out there that are open and would love a woman to co-create with.
mhm.
None of them are perfect, though.
Yeah.
Prince Charming doesn't exist, but finding a beautiful soul that you can merge your life journey with and create something beautiful with, that person's, just trust that person's coming.
Mm, I love that. That's the dream, and I feel like it's almost better than the fairy tale. So, but you have given us so much amazing advice today. Thank you for sharing all of that. I love hearing it from a man's perspective as well. Absolutely amazing. Is there anything we, haven't covered that you want to share with the audience?
I think when it comes down to it, um, a lot of people don't know how to do the healing. you know
Mm,
a lot of people, like, are still feeling pain or wounds from past relationship. They're still feeling fears about the future. They're feeling stress and overwhelm, and sometimes knowing exactly how to heal is a challenging thing.
mm,
And that's where I'm just going to encourage you to really make the commitment to put yourself in environments where that healing happens. Like, one of the events that we have, we call it the Legendary Breakthrough Intensive. It's 3 days of the deepest soul healing work that you'll do on the planet. And for me, whether it's that or just, doing a meditation retreat, or doing, experiences where you're stepping more fully into who you are, that healing journey is is the most important journey you can take. And we can't do that on our own. We can't be surgeons to our own wounds. Like, we need coaches, we need healers in our life that can support us in shifting our perspective and getting out of the paradigms that created our pain in the first place. And
mm.
so my invitation is just to put yourself into those environments. And if any of you watching this, you resonate with me and energy, like, reach out to me, and I'll give you an invite to come to the next Legendary um, Breakthrough Intensive, because it's so critical for that healing journey, for you to know how to find you, and
Mm,
for you to know how to step into that, being the most whole and awakened and powerful and confident and sexy version of you. And that's what we do for 3 days, is deep dive work in terms of unlocking that. So that's my encouragement.
and no matter what people are feeling, where they're at, that's open. No matter what their pain is, that's open to serving all.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, the reality is, in terms of the healing work that happens at Legendary, the purpose of Legendary is simple: it's to help people step into being the highest, most aligned version of themselves. And
Mhm,
that means releasing from ourselves what I call our false self, right?
mhm, mhm,
The work, I define it as soul alchemy, taking someone from who they've been to who they're meant to be. And that
mm,
requires us to do the identity work of releasing our
mm,
false ideas, our false ego, our false limiting beliefs, our false fears, our false, like, all of these things that keep us stuck.
mhm,
Like, when someone emerges from a divorce, there's so much healing that needs to happen. And that happens when you can address each of those triggers and pain points inside of you, and be given tools to evolve, you know, to create that transformation.
mm,
And the event's amazing for someone that just wants to make more money in their life. It's amazing for people that want to lose weight and be healthier and sexier. But for someone that just wants to experience deeper relationships and
mhm.
deeper healing and deeper confidence and deeper internal joy and all of that, like, it's magical, the transformation that can happen in 3 days from doing the work.
And how does someone identify that they need healing? Is it just if they're in any sort of pain, if something's not working out? Like, what is that indicator?
Here's how you know you need healing. Number one, if you're holding any onto any resentment, anger, or bitterness from the past. Number two, if there's anything in your current present moment that gets you triggered, that makes you feel stressed, that makes you feel overwhelmed, that makes you feel exhausted, makes you feel sad, makes you feel depressed, if you feel any of those emotions, guess what? You've got some healing work to do, right? And it's also for anyone that just wants to experience more. If you want to experience more joy, more abundance, more love, more any of that, then guess what? You got some healing to do. Because when the healing's done, abundance, love, joy, confidence, they're the natural outcome. When we're whole and complete, we can't help but to live life in a magical, fantastic, amazing, brilliant, intoxicating way. But if we're experiencing stress, depression, fear, anxiety, bitterness, any of those emotions, then guess what? There's an invitation. Those are just merely invitations for you to do the work.
I like it. I like the invitation part.
Yeah. And that's how I look at it. Like anytime I get triggered, because I'll still get triggered from time to time,
Right.
but I don't look at it as a bad thing. It's like, oh my gosh, the universe just gave me an invitation to heal something new, right? And it's like that one mindset shift changes everything.
Right.
Because then I'm not looking at the person who did something that triggered me as the source of the problem. I know the source of the problem is right here inside of me. And when I know the source of the problem inside of me is here, then I also know the source of the solution is inside of me here too. And the universe is just giving me this gift to say, hey, guess what? Your invitation for your next upgrade has arrived. Congratulations.
I love it. I love it. That's perfect. Oh my gosh. It's so true. Because like you said, all those emotions, they don't have to be there and they can be healed and there can be a higher blissful, amazing, deeper relationships, not only with romantic, but every relationship in your life. So it's totally worth it. Thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure. Definitely get to your event. Oh my gosh, that sounds incredible.
Yeah, I'm just going to rather than give you a link or a URL or anything, if anyone here is interested in coming to the event, here's what I'm going to do as a special gift to you. Once again, if you're like, yes, I want to come experience these 3 days of magic and transformation and healing and really step into being that most powerful version of you so you can attract the relationship you desire, then here's my...
Oh, where'd it go? I think we lost him for a moment. Right at the good part too. We'll see if he comes back in a second. Oh my gosh. It's amazing what those 3-day intensives do. So I would totally suggest, I've been to a couple myself and I think there's nothing more powerful than just taking the time for yourself and doing those intensives, especially like you said, when you can actually have the help and get someone to see what you can't see. That was so impactful for me. So I think I think it's amazing, and a lot of them can be a lot more days. So I think a 3 day is actually a really good time frame. Um, I've never had to just kind of talk to you and myself right now. When he's coming back, I can see. But yeah, big fan of those. I think they make a lot of sense, and it will impact everything. It's absolutely insane. I know since having the awareness myself, it's changed my relationship with my mom. It's changed my relationship with everybody. I'm just a lot more calm and relaxed. People can see a physical difference with me and how I was. So it's I want to see if he's going to come back on. If not, we're going to have to put it in the email, share it with everybody. I hope you enjoyed that one. That was amazing. I always love getting the male point of view. It's incredible. Like I was saying, that secret truly is just that loving yourself. It is the most powerful thing I have come to realize. I thought I was confident and I thought I was this and I thought I had it all figured out, yet I didn't. That's why I was reading a ton of relationship books and getting coaching. But when I had that epiphany of just love yourself so much, I mean, you literally become unstoppable to the world. You don't take anything personally. Not hardly anything can bother you. Nobody can make you feel anything because you make yourself feel the way you feel. It literally makes you, like I said, unstoppable. It's amazing, amazing. So there, all these coaches that I've presented to you are all accessible to kind of do that individually, but at the same time in their own way. But that really is the key. It's totally the key. So I want to see if he's going to jump back on here. I don't even have my phone near me. We'll give it another few minutes. But yeah, no, that was amazing. I'm just love how I'm giving my feedback on the thing. That was really good. All right, so maybe I'll just click off this one, and I might actually leave the free gift at the end for as a separate video, and I'll list that on the email. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you next time.